one of the things that we need to do when we need to look at Chinese foreign policy is that we need to look at it through a sort of run through it with a fine tooth comb rather than sort of throwing the baby out with the bathwater just because it is Chinese proposed. When you look at this GDI initiative, it was announced in September 2021 during Xi Jinping's speech at the UNGA. He linked it to the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. At the same time, China set up what was called a Friends of GDI group at the UN. As of this time, from what we know, there are 60 countries which are partners in this, Friends of GDI group. This was much more participatory, therefore, than what BRI has been. It was not something that was designed in Beijing, where Beijing thought of the kind of projects, or Chinese companies sort of that kind of projects that they needed to carry out in terms of infrastructure. It was something where there was a collaborative conversation about what kind of development initiatives are needed in the context of sustainable development goals. So the Chinese were smart to sort of frame it within the context of the UN framework. Since then, at least what Chinese media tells us is that they've had 100 countries and international organizations as part of their dialogue partners. They've been able to hold they've been able to achieve two big outcomes. One is that following the BRICS summit last year, there was a high-level dialogue on global development that was held. India was party to that dialogue. That dialogue ended up with 32 specific deliverables. If you look at that list of those concrete actions that they want to achieve, it's it's a set of broad ideas where some part of it is actual commitments of money. So, for example, China and the FAO, South-South Cooperation Trust, is now increased to about $50 million US. They'll be spending that. China will be offering some 100,000 training opportunities on post-COVID economic recovery and social development. There'll be an attempt to launch an international NGO network for poverty reduction. There'll be an attempt to launch a global alliance on poverty reduction and development. So you have lots of countries, including India, on board with these ideas. And most of these ideas are fairly non-controversial. They are addressing a need within developing countries. And from Beijing's point of view, it's quite important because what it does is that it takes off some of the sharp edge of the criticism that Chinese development diplomacy or economic diplomacy is predatory, is fundamentally going to drive developing countries into debt. At the same time, it builds some of these links of, governance and soft connectivity of, addressing issues that matter to the people, on education, on healthcare. Another smart thing that they have done is that most of the projects that have been identified under GDI, and a list of projects was announced some time back, about 50 projects. If you look at that list of projects, they are, again, fairly non-controversial, linked to sustainable development goals on food security, poverty reduction, green development. A lot of them are being done by the Chinese Development Agency, SIDCA, with the Chinese Ministry of Commerce. But a lot of them are also being done in partnership with UN agencies. So UNDP, UNICEF, UNAIDS, UNIDO, some in partnership with regional agencies of ASEAN countries. So you're doing this essentially to try, in my view, at least why Beijing is doing this, is to try and sort of take the hard edge of, the narrative around Chinese economic diplomacy, but while also trying to address what it sees are developmental needs, because there can be, failures in development in other countries can lead to chaos, which can impact China's own interests. So it's a need to play a much more active role in the global South by doing